And welcome back to my 5 bubbling rocks water feature. As you can see, we've progressed a little bit more since last fall. I had to shut the project down because of cold weather and snow, but we're back on it again this year. And as you can see, I've got the framework all built up to support the 5 bubbling rocks. That's actually composite deck material, and the 4x4 posts are just composite post covers, and that's basically all the framework consists of. I got all the plumbing done. It's still made out of 3/4 inch PVC, and each place where I'm going to have a bubbling rock I've turned up a 90. And we're going to have clear plastic tubing coming up through the center of the rocks. And that's going to create our bubbling rocks effect. This is the spot where the pump's going to go. I was kind of hoping to put it on the back side, but there just isn't enough room. So I'm going to put it right down there. So that should work out pretty good. And I think I'm actually going to fill the pond up and give her another test run. So we'll probably be getting to that real shortly. And I think I'm going to blow some holes in some more rocks. If you remember from last year, there's the gray one. And kind of the pinkish one is right there. And I got to make a hole in that one, and that one yet. So we're going to get to that real shortly too. So to make my holes in the bubbling rocks, I've got a Bosch hammer drill with a 5/8 masonry bit. And that's going to make a big enough hole for us to get our 1/2 inch clear line up through the rock. And I've kind of marked out a little spot about right here in the middle. That's where I'm going to make the hole. So here we go. And there we go. 1 5/8 hole in a rock. And now we're getting the pond temporarily filled up to give it a test run. So this will take a few minutes to fill up. Okay, the pond is full of water. I've got the pump installed and all hooked up. All 5 rocks are roughly in their designated areas. I went ahead and flush cut the 1/2 inch clear rubber tubes just for the testing purposes. I will probably go back and cut these down probably a good inch or so they're not visible when you're looking over the top of it. So as far as I know, we're ready to plug the pump in and give it a test spin. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. So this is the spray patterns that we're getting right now. You can see that one's kind of totally missing the rock altogether. But what I kind of wanted to show you is, like on this one in particular, you can still see a little bit of the 1/2-inch hose there. When you cut that down, I think it's going to make it spray or bubble a little bit nicer, and then it will also need a little bit of fine-tuning once you get the rock on here. But see, even just by tilting that like that, how much different that looks now. It's kind of bubbling straight up and flowing over the rock in all directions and stuff like that. So you'll just kind of have to play with it and fine-tune it as you get closer to the finished product. So, but overall, I think we're getting the desired effect that we were hoping for. So I guess the next move is putting the expanded metal over the surface here, and this is it right here. It's just aluminum expanded metal. I went with aluminum because it's not going to rust, and that little cutout right there is for the pump access. So at the end of the season, you can pull the pump out and it won't freeze on you. So I guess that'll be my next step on this. So far so good. Okay, this is the aluminum expanded metal that I'm going to use to help support the landscaping rock on top of the hidden pond water feature. And as you can see, I've cut holes through the expanded metal and brought the clear rubber tubes up through, but it leaves a very jagged edge, and what I'm going to do there is cut that hole open a little bit bigger and install some of these. This is a 1-inch chase nipple, and that'll ensure a smooth transition coming up through the expanded metal, and we won't get any rubbing and possible holes and tears in the plastic tubing. So we're gonna get that taken care of. That's my access hole for the pump when the time comes to drop it back down in there. And this little chase here, that's an 1.25-inch chase. I'm actually going to route the plug up through there and take it in some PVC pipe to a switch, and that's what's going to turn the pond on and off. Of course, a 4x8 sheet of expanded metal was too short. The pond itself is just a little bit wider than that, so I have 2 pieces to splice in there, there and there, and I'm just going to nut and bolt that, and that should be just fine. So I guess I'm gonna get to these, get them installed, and we'll see where we're at after that. Okay, as you can see, I've got all the 1-inch chase nipples installed, and that's going to be so much better of a transition. There's no more sharp edges or anything like that for the hoses to catch on, so I think that's a good move. Next, I've got some flat black spray paint, so I'm going to spray the whole aluminum mesh flat black, and then you know, you won't be able to see it so easy if there's any holes in the landscaping rock that I put over the top of this. So I think we're to that point where I feel comfortable we can paint it, and then we'll go ahead and put it on top of the pond. So that's the next step. And for the paint, I've decided to use this Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Paint Plus Primer in flat black. It was made in the USA, plus it was on sale for $2.98. So that ought to do the trick. Okay, and here is what it looks like so far with everything painted. We've got all the chase bushings in place. I did change this out to a little more reinforced rubber tubing. I was finding when I was setting the rocks over the tubes that down low it would kind of want to collapse it a little bit, so I went with a little bit heavier duty reinforced tubing, so that should solve that problem. So now I think I'm going to go ahead and set the rocks back in their spots, and I'm going to have to mark and trim all these again so that they're just a little bit recessed down inside the rocks so you don't see them. So that's the next step. Okay, we are a little bit closer to being finished up. I got the screen all painted and it's put down over the framework. And here's just a little close-up of how the rocks look as they're bubbling. And you can see in that back right corner, that's where the cord will be coming out. And here's the pump access panel, is going to be right under here. So you'll be able to pull the pump out in the winter time. So the next thing I need to do on this, or want to do, is I'm going to go around the whole perimeter of the pond here, and you can see I've kind of already started, and I'm going to beat these sharp edges down and kind of form it around the edge of the pond there. So I'll have to go around the whole perimeter and do that. And then of course I gotta backfill all around the pond. And as soon as I get it all backfilled, I got all these little boulders here. They're about softball size, maybe a little bit bigger. And that's going to create a rock border around the whole pond. So that should look pretty nice. So I guess that's going to be the next step. Well, as you can see, I've got the 5 Bubbling Rocks water feature just about completed. Since I last shot video, I've backfilled around the pond with dirt. I've installed the weed barrier mesh, and I've also got the rock border all the way around the pond. About all I have left to do is put the tiny landscaping rocks on the wire mesh there. But to do that, I've decided to go ahead and pick through all of my landscaping rock and pick out the dark purples, dark grays. I kind of wanted this center portion to contrast against the rest of it, so I think if I go through and pick out all the dark colors from what I have laying around me, I think that will be just enough contrast. I've kind of started that just a little bit right there, just to see what it would look like with the dark grays and dark reds and purples. So it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to do that, but I think it'll be worth it in the end, and it won't cost me any more because I've got all the material right here. So this pretty much concludes this project, and I hope it gives somebody some ideas on how to create a water feature such as this in their own backyard. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.